60% of the time, it works every time.
What's up, everybody? It's Thegoal60 here. We're going into week 7 of the 2019 college football season. This week, I'm going to be by myself. Michael has some things he had to get done, had to attend to. And so, therefore, I'll put his picks in the description as soon as he sends them to me. But I'm going to go over my picks. I don't have a lot this week. I've only got 6. But I thought I'd have a lot more. We got somewhere around 25 games going off where it's Power 5 versus Power 5. And you guys that's been watching this for a while know that that's what I project. That's the teams that I keep up with and keep the data for is only the Power 5 schools. So I try to focus on those matchups. And so we'll just jump right in. So the first one, we'll go out to the Pac-12. And it's a team that I've been on a couple times this year. I've went 1-1 with. And, you know, the first one we lost. The one we was on them last week, we won. And it's just a team that I think, I don't think it's going to have a good record by any means. Obviously, they haven't until this point. But they got us an outright win last week, and that is Oregon State. Now, this week they take on Utah. They're playing them at home. Utah notorious for not traveling that great. They're a lot better at home. Utah is a great team, but they're also giving up 2 touchdowns here. And getting plus 14 on an Oregon State team who can throw the ball around and going up against a defense that is not elite against the pass. In fact, they're pretty suspect at times. Now, I have Utah actually outrushing this team by a lot. But there's just something about it. You throw in several things. They're pretty even on turnovers in these Power 5 games. They're, you know, like I said, there's a big discrepancy there between Utah on the rushing side. But on passing, Oregon State makes up quite a bit of ground. And it being home field advantage, they'd only get about a point here is what I give them. And you just take in, you know, different aspects. And I just, for whatever reason, I'm going to take the points. I'm going to take Oregon State plus 14. I don't know. I don't think they're going to win this game by any means. This may be very close at the end to, you know, getting us a cover, but I just think that Oregon State's got a little momentum. They won a game last week that they were an underdog in, and I think they got a little momentum here at home, getting a Utah team who's got a little bit of the air taken out when they lost to USC. And like I said, Utah doesn't travel as good as they play at home. Now, next up, I'm going to be looking to go the Big 12. And it's, the Big 12 is a lot like the Pac-12, in my opinion, where one team will be up and down every week. This week, we've got both teams coming off a win. Both teams were an underdog last week and won outright. Baylor's undefeated. You look at them at home, and you got Texas Tech coming in who upset an Oklahoma State team who probably was a little rated higher than what they should have been. But you look at the turnover margin, they're tied. They're both plus 4 in turnovers in Power 5 games. Right now, I've got Baylor rushing for a little bit more yards. They're pretty even on the passing area. I've got this game in the single digits when I projected my line. I've got them under 10 points. Right now, the line is run 11. I'm going to take the dog here on the road. I'm taking Texas Tech plus 11 against Baylor this week. I know that Baylor's got a quarterback that's a little bit banged up, a little bit, a few bruises, whatnot. He's going to play. He's going to go. But I think Texas Tech rides a little bit of momentum and continues the success. I don't know if they win the game outright, but I'm going to take those points. Getting more than 10, I like it a lot. More than 2 scores at least. My next game I'm going to go with, I've actually got 2 plays in the same game, and it's in the Big Ten, and it's Maryland and Purdue. Now, these 2 teams are not very good. They they hadn't really been playing very well this year, either one of them. But I really think Maryland's a little bit better than Purdue this year. Purdue just seems are not able to move the ball. And I think Maryland can move the ball at times. I think this is one of those situations where they'll be able to move the ball again. And I'm going to take a minus 4.5 against Purdue. Also in this game, I'm going to be looking at the total. Right now it's at 56. I've got it projected a touchdown less than that. So I'm actually going to take the under. So I'm going to take Maryland at minus 4.5 against Purdue. And I'm also going to take the under 56 in this game. And I really, just feel like both these teams are going to try to come out, play solid defense. They're right around the same in turnovers. I've got Maryland being able to rush the ball a lot more. Now, Purdue's traditionally been able to pass the ball. They've got some quarterbacks hurt right now, and they're just not moving the ball hardly at all. And I hope that continues this week. That would help me on both sides of that and getting that cover with Maryland and also getting the under. We'll see what happens there, but I feel confident. I hope that this game finishes somewhere in the high 40s and doesn't even touch the 50s. That'd be great. Now, my next, and no, it's not my last play, but it's my next to last play. And we're going to go to the ACC for both of these. The first one's going to shock you, but let me tell you how I would play it. Okay, right now Clemson at home is a 27-point favorite. Vegas is giving you that point for a reason, okay? So they're keeping it under 4 touchdowns. And if you look at the other side with Florida State, you're just thinking, well, if I could just get 4 touchdowns. Let me go over a couple stats for you. In Power 5 games, Clemson is even. They're at 0. Florida State's at +6. When I projected it out, I have Florida State being rush the ball around 115 to 120 yards. I've got Clemson only rushing for 140 to 150 yards. Now, I know they probably will get a few more yards than that, but you've got to understand what I'm saying. Things are going to go Florida State's way, I believe, a little bit. Now, the big difference here is where Clemson can throw the ball. They're loaded with talent. They're loaded every position on the field. They just haven't played up to that level of competition or that level of talent this season. So call me crazy if you want. I don't like, once again, with these other underdogs, we're getting a lot of points. I don't think they're going to win the game by any stretch. But I do like having that many points. And I would also say this. If you wait on this game later in the week, maybe on Thursday or Friday, you're going to get a better line. It may go above 4 touchdowns. I'm not going to put mine in right now. I'm going to wait till I can see. I'm hoping it'll get around 28. I'm really hoping to get 28.5. Because at that point, that's when I'm going to take it. I may even throw it in a teaser. I don't know. I'm going to mess with these a little bit, play with them. Honestly, 27 points is a lot of points, but that's still, I would like to get above that 4 touchdown mark. Some of you may be able to look at a book, may be able to buy a point. I don't know. It's according to how expensive it is to where it takes the value out of it. But overall, I'm looking at Florida State here on the road, getting the points. This used to be a pretty good rivalry game. It's lost a lot of that luster, obviously, with Florida State being down. But I think that Florida State has kind of flown under the radar since they opened up losing 2 in a row to start the season. I think they've gotten better each week. I think they've come a long way. Their first win was in overtime against Louisiana Monroe, where they won by, I believe, a point or maybe a field goal. This team has got better. They almost beat Virginia. It come down to the last play of the game on the 3-yard line. They run out of time. They've played some games. I think they beat North Carolina State by quite a bit. They've played some games where they've got better and better and better. I think they've flown under the radar. I think this game should be closer to around 20 points instead of 27. And I think Clemson is going to continue to win, but not play that level that they're used to. I think this is one of those years where they're going to do fine. They're going to make the playoffs, but they're just barely squeaking by some of these games. And I think this is going to be one of those games where they play a little bit closer to the vest and they keep it close for a while, and then they stretch it out in the fourth quarter. I'm taking Florida State plus the points, especially if it gets above 4 touchdowns. And last, it's probably going to be another, really a surprise when you hear this. I'm looking at this Virginia and Miami game. Now, when I project my lines, I do those a lot. I get a lot of them done on Sundays. I sit there and I put in all my data, and then I start looking at, projecting stats, and then I assign a point value to those stats. I don't look at the lines that are coming out from the big casinos before I finish up my lines. I try to wait, and I'm sure I'm missing out on some value as far as jumping on early lines. But I like to be done with my handicapping before I ever look at what theirs is. Now, a lot of times that means that line has already moved a couple points. But when I projected this game, I had Miami winning it by 4 points. And I thought, there's no way. When I look at the line, this is a work in progress. I'm not a professional. This is a hobby of mine. And I'm trying to become that level. I'm trying to become a professional at it. but at the same time, I'm still building. When I finished my line and I looked at what the actual line was, and it's 1.5, and Miami was favored, I thought, wow, I've actually got pretty close. But I started digging into it more, and I thought, this looks good, because initially I just go off my numbers. You start looking at some of the things, like last week was by far a fluke as far as Miami turned the ball over. I think they had 5 turnovers against Virginia Tech. Now, Virginia Tech was coming off a week where they were embarrassed at home. Miami, come off a bye, they were very rusty. Miami moved the ball quite a bit, but they would get down there and turn it over. They fought back, tied it up, and then ended up losing it right at the end of the game. So what I'm saying is Miami was able to move the ball. They should have won that game by 3 touchdowns. They could not get it in the end zone. That does not last. Regression to the mean works for you and against you in every sport. It's big in baseball. You've heard me talk about it several times. But in football, you also have a little bit of it too. More in pro, but also you get some in college. Those turnovers that were finishing on drives, they've worked on that all week. I promise you, they have watched so much film this week on mistakes that they're not going to make those mistakes this week. Virginia's a great team. I really think that team is going to do well. I even had them projected to finish up in the top of that side of the ACC. This week, Miami gets an upset. I call it an upset just because Virginia's ranked. They're favored. It's really not an upset when you look at the favored teams. I'm taking Miami at home. It's under a field goal. I really think they bounce back, and I think they get a win here against Virginia. And what will seem like an upset win was, in all actuality, was a game where Miami was the right team, the right side. So that's everything I've got this week. I'll list these in the description as always. When Michael sends me his picks, I'll list those in the description. I really appreciate you tuning in and checking this out. Hopefully we have us a good week. I went 4-3-1 last week, hoping to build on that success and move forward this week. And we've only got 6 plays, so hopefully we can have some wins. Hope everybody has a great rest of your week, and I will see you next time. Thanks.